and we will get started. I started making these Highland cows. I saw a YouTube video on making little wooden animals, and I have taken it and I've been trying to turn it down to be as simple as I can so that literally anybody can do this. All you need is 2 centers and at least 1 tool to turn. And it's just as basic as you can get. On my lathe, I already have the head. And whenever you're doing these things, proportions don't matter. If you have a big head and a little body, it's going to look goofy. It's going to look cute. If you have a big head and a little body, it's going to look goofy and cute. I mean, really, whatever you want works. And what I start with is I go find some wood laying around on the place, and I just chop it up into whatever size I feel like carrying around. When I get too many in my arms, I call it good. And I won this at SWAT because I suggested what to turn a really ugly piece of wood into. I suggested a mushroom and it came out cool and he liked it. So I got this handy dandy little piece. And what's nice, since I get a lot of random pieces of branches off of my place, they're never round. And so trying to use the center finder, thank you, doesn't work that great. And so that's why I like this, because I can just center it between the 4 pieces and get my center quicker. And I'm a little short, so you'll have to forgive me if this isn't centered this time. Right about here. Okay. I will get this one centered. The other one has already been centered. Okay, and just to go over everything I need for this project, you need 2 pieces of wood, a big and a little, body and head. I have whatever size wooden dowel I happen to have around the shop. I grab and I cut it. This is a little short. I grabbed the wrong one, but you can turn your own. But I mean, if you have some wooden dowels. Then I went to a cabinet shop and asked if they had any cutoffs. And so I got really like 40-inch long pieces of maple, and I don't even know what all I got, but I got a lot of stuff. And these are perfect for making into little horns. And for this, all I do is I will draw my little picture on it. There we go. I will draw a little picture on this and I will take it to my bandsaw, and I actually have 2. So I can put it next to the head and say, which one looks better? And I'll take it to the bandsaw, cut out this rough shape. Then I will take it to my belt sander and finish sanding out the shape, make it kind of shaped like an actual horn. If the curve is too small for my belt sander, then I take my Dremel out. And then I'll just finish hand sanding. This is tiny, so it doesn't take that long. And I kind of screwed up on the little attachment here. Usually I try to make it a little longer and a little bit more squared, but it's getting hot glued in, so it doesn't matter that much. And the last thing is the hair. I get this at Hobby Lobby. I get white and I dye it. You can get this in color. You can get it on Amazon. You can get some really cool colors and shades and even patterns. Heck, you could make a zebra version if you really wanted to. But I have been experimenting with dyes. This one I did with isopropyl alcohol. I threw some Alumilite dyes in there because I had it. And yeah, I like this color. But be warned, sometimes they do come off on your hands. This one hasn't yet, so I'm calling that a win. My previous one did, so well, I can't let anybody have it because their hands will turn brown. Oh, okay. So I'll get a paintbrush and I'll just brush it on pretty heavy. It doesn't like to penetrate very well, which on this one I like because I wanted a lighter shade. If you look at my cow over there on the table, it's a much darker one, and I had to try to brush the hair both ways to really get it all the way through, and that worked well. And it takes forever to dry, so I usually do this 1 to 2 days in advance. I can take it out with like a hair dryer, and that'll speed up the process, but I have other stuff I need to do besides drying out hair, so I move on. And I'll show you more on how I cut these to fit and everything whenever I get finished turning the general shape. Okay, just right quick, just to show you what I'm doing because, well, I'm used to not having to talk when I'm doing this, so sometimes I have to think about that. What I'm starting with is usually where my tailstock is, that's where like the nose is going to be. And so I try to round this out pretty good. And then this portion is going to be the eyes. You want it, let me grab an eye. I forgot to show these. These are safety eyes. They're for like little stuffed animals and children's toys. And I crochet, so I saw these. I'm thinking I could use this in my wood turning. So I did. But what I do is I want to check the eye and I want to make sure I have a big enough gap here where it's not going to hit this edge whenever I drill a hole. You don't want it being offset and sticking out too far. You want it to sink down pretty good. I don't want it completely flat because, well, this is round. I'm wood turning. This is easy for beginners. So I just want to make it big enough that it will definitely fit. A lot of times I'll turn it upside down. I try to turn it. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. Upside down, and I can kind of see how big of a gap I have, and that will help. And so eye, nose, I'll do another little shave up here on the top to just give it a little indentation for the head, for the horns. And that is all it takes for a head. That is that easy. That's why these are quick, easy. Anyone can do it. I'll go ahead and turn this. Well, I'll probably go. I don't know. I kind of like that. Sometimes I actually leave little bits of bark on it. On my other one, I do because it looks like a little spot on a cow. Because cows have spots and interesting little markings. So I kind of like that. And on the same note, if the rest of it's perfect and I really don't want to turn it down anymore, this can become the back. No one will ever see it. So I pretty well like the shape. And sometimes I'll make the muzzle real fat. Sometimes I'll make it thinner. I mean, you can make this look however you want. That's the fun thing, because they can be really unique. They can be really goofy. I made one with a huge nose. And that was actually one of my favorites because it looked ridiculous. It barely, I had to get a really long dowel on it because it barely fit because the nose was so honking huge. It was really cute. But anyways, this is a simple head. I'm going to borrow a marker up here. What I'll go ahead and do while I have it up here is show you. So this is going to be the back because, well, if you're a beginner and you don't really want to go any further, I will drill a hole right there for the back. Whatever size dowel I have, I'll drill the same size hole. Turn it, try to get it right about where it needs to go. I'll make a dot right about here for the eyes. A little bit more to the side for the ears. I try to use my finger to match it. Like I said, this is all approximate. If it's a little wonky, it's not going to hurt anything. Okay, so we have two eyes. We have an ear. We have a horn. match it on that side pretty close, and we have a hole for the back. Then what I like to do, because it's just between centers, and I usually don't chuck these up because I just want quick. I'll take it to my belt sander and I'll go ahead and sand the top and the bottom until they're smooth. Oh, forgot a step because I'm demoing because I forget that. I brought sandpaper. I will not be using it because, well, who wants to breathe that in here? But I like using Abernet. I have 180, mark 1, 240. I think it's 320. I think that's next one, and 400. And so all I sand is from this point down. You actually, if you turn rough, that's a good thing because the glue will stick to this better than if you turn really smooth. So, John, you really need to turn rough. You can't do smooth turning on this. It's got to be rough. Sorry. So that is the head. Easy peasy. Any questions so far? I would hope not, because I might not know how to answer them. And I thought this was off of my old wood that I found in the forest pile. Apparently it wasn't. Apparently this is off of one of the trees that died that we just barely cut down because it started cracking on me when I got here. So a little bit of CA saves the day. And another nice thing, if it has cracks, it doesn't matter. It's all going to be hidden except on this one, the very bottom. The bottom is on the headstock. You can do whatever you prefer, but this is just my preference because for me on the tailstock, it has such a fine point. I can really get in there more, but you don't have to get it all that great. Hit it with the belt sander to kind of level things out. It's going to be covered in hair. Who cares? Now I did go ahead and turn this a little bit at home because this was a pretty curved piece and real bulky, and there's bark. It was covered in bark, and I don't think any of us want to clean all that up after a demo. So I got most of it off for y'all. Well, and I am not a fast turner, so why waste time turning bark? Okay. Excuse me, I'm done. I'm used to my dust mask. I'm down a little bit here. And once again, Bark is okay. It's going to be hidden. In fact, if anything, that's a good thing for all that glue to stick to. So I really don't mind there being bark on this. Shape doesn't have to be perfect. It's not that smooth. I'm turning, if I really wanted a better finish, I'd take a little bit more time. I don't want a good finish. I want this really rough. In fact, if anything, if it turns out pretty smooth, I'll get 80 grit. I don't have much, but I do have some 80 grit. And I will actually try to leave ridges in this to really give that glue something to hold on to. Only thing you finish nicely on this is the very bottom. And I forgot my parting tool. Otherwise, I would do a little bit of a concave, just a little bit, but I forgot it. And so I'd probably just take this afterwards to the belt sander, smooth it out a little bit, hand sand it, and it would be done and ready to go. I'll finish this out. I don't like the shape yet at the very top. Oh, and I do curve the bottom a little bit just to give it a better look, give it a more refined finish, as refined as a Highland cow can possibly look. And so this is nearly done. Now, normally on the lathe, I'd go ahead, fix this, and sand the bottom some while it's on here. I'd go through the grits, get up to 400. Because normally I don't have to take it to my belt sander because I'll actually like to get that little bit of a concave to it. But it's just preference. If I was in the mood for it and I wasn't liking the way it comes out, if it's a completely flat bottom, it's not going to hurt anything. I mean, it's a little goofy decoration. So that is the body. I'll pick a good spot. And one thing I like to do, it really doesn't matter, but I like to look and see if there's any features on the face that would match the bottom so that the grain's flowing in the same direction. Totally personal preference, 100% does not matter. But I will go ahead and mark. I don't want to drill through the bark, so I will mark the head on here. It can set high. It can set really low. I like to have the top of the head just a little bit over the top of the back. Sometimes I've dropped them lower so that the head's like kind of about the top third of the body. It's whatever look you want. I usually make a family, like the old grumpy dad, the high end, you know, the high maintenance mom, and the kid might be a little cockeyed because he's not really sure what's going on with life anymore. Twin parents. He's curious. Anyways, this one I'll probably just mark here. Oh, that looks good. I'm still in y'all's markers. Okay. Next is assembly, and we are going to move to the second one for that. Okay, so I went to my drill press or got my drill out. I drilled out all my holes. So we have a body, we have a head, and I showed y'all how I do the horns. Like, so I'll draw a picture of what I want the horn to look like. A lot of times, let me get a marker so you'll see that a little bit better. So a lot of times I will actually take it and put it next to the head and think, I got to remember to put it by the right hole, otherwise the angle's a little off. Put it here, it's like, do I want more of a longhorn look? Or do I want more of kind of a yacky look? I kind of like this one for my Highland bulls, but I've done all kinds of horn sizes and shapes, and because it's fun, it's interesting. So I would take this to my bandsaw and I'd cut out the curve And then I would mark down the middle, which a very faint line. Pretend that's straight. And I would just cut it in half. And then you have two matching horns. I'll take it over to the belt sander or my Dremel, and I'll just finish out that rough shape. And with a horn, they come to a point. You don't want it too pointy because that's like stabby. So I will dull that a little bit. But whenever I'm sanding it, I will push the tip of the horn down on my belt sander. So on both sides, so it actually does come to a point. And then I just continue shaping until it looks sort of like a horn. And get all my parts here. Whenever I'm measuring this, I have this nice little tape, and I will measure the widest part. Cooperate with me. And then I will take that measurement, and I usually have a pen out, and I will measure the same on the hair. And then I will measure from this bottom right here all the way up to the middle. So 5 inches. And then I'll mark it in 2 places, the whole measure twice, cut once, because I mean, granted, if you mess this up, just make a smaller one next time. They'll fit. And then, so I've measured all my pieces, and I can't forget the ears. Well, you can forget the ears. You can barely see the ears, but on me, I want ears on my bull. And so I cut a diamond shape. Can y'all see it? Yeah. So whenever you glue it, fold it in half, it's an ear shape. And then I will just shove that in the ear hole after the hair's on. And with the hot glue connecting to the hair, the hide and the hair here, it's not moving. And let me plug in my hot glue gun because I forgot to do that. So, talk about a few other things. This is the only finish I have, Mahoney's finish. I like it. I figure if I like it, just keep using it. And so I will go ahead and finish out from this slope here before the eyes all the way down, and I will go ahead and put a finish on the bottom. If I don't want to change the color, because I've had some that almost have a neat grayish tint to them, and if I put any sealer on it, it's going to turn it more brownish or even darken it. I don't finish it. I'll just sand it all the way to 400. I have a 6, maybe it's 600 grit. I might touch it with that just to get a little bit more of a sheen to it. But it's just preference. And then I will not be doing this here. This is how I glue on the hair, because this stuff, is that right side up for you? Other way? Okay. This is super messy. It sprays in a thin line, but it's really wide. And so I almost always have overspray. What I will do to try to not get this on the hair, I have just a piece of cardboard, and then I'll get some masking tape and line all of the edges. So that way, whenever I'm spraying this, it doesn't get on all the hair. Excuse me. And while the masking tape is still on there, I usually try to find where the hole is, and that's my starting point. And I will take it with gloves. This stuff is a mess. I have used it without gloves. But I'll take it, and you just kind of help it and roll it. You try to keep it flat and stick it. And then I pull the masking tape off, and there's very little mess because it's all on here and then here, not on your hands. And well, there's been a lot of experimentation to figure that one out, because my hands have been like, it's covered in hair and dye and But for the sake of not making a disaster here, I will be using hot glue as soon as the glue is hot. Few other tools I'd recommend. I like using this to cut out my hair, because if you use scissors, you're probably going to cut the tips of the hair off. Whereas this, I can just go on the back and score it and just work until it actually cuts through. And I like to use this to find my holes after I put the hair on, because you just have to go by feel. And how are you going to put any of this together if you don't have anywhere to put it? So I'll just get this and I will cut a hole and round it out. And then this is how I groom it. But then my secret, which I will share with y'all, just don't share with anybody else, is the air hose. That's my favorite thing to get these things looking so cute because I just hit the air hose on this, just go up and down, and it just looks so fluffy, almost like a real cow just in a hurricane. It's really cute. So let's see if the hot glue is ready. Not quite yet. So any questions while we're waiting for hot glue? Because I did not plug that in earlier. It's pretty much the same way. Once I'll cut that's not the head. After I get the hair on, I will go ahead and feel around, which the smaller the hole, the harder this is. So kind of make a note of where it is beforehand. Otherwise, you're just kind of spin. But so here's the eyes. The ear should be here. Yep, there's a hole for the ear. So I'll take my little knife and I will put a hole in here and I'll slowly cut around it. And I just hot glue the horn in, and it holds pretty good because that hot glue is also holding on to all this hair. And so it's on the hair, it's all around the horn. And to kind of help it, I'll even push the hair down on the horn. So it's just like latched on there like a little octopus holding it. Yep, you can use a dowel. This apparently was my cutoff, not the one I was supposed to bring, but the one that I was cutting off because it was too long. So it's a little too short, but we're gonna make it work. But a lot of times I'll go ahead and round off one side. This really doesn't need it because my drill bit was bent and I didn't realize it, so it's a little wobbly, so it's a little oversized. But it fits on there. You don't need a dowel, you can turn your own. We're wood turners, that's what we do. But I just happen to have a bunch of these laying around, so I'm like, well, I don't use them for anything else, might as well use it for these. Check the hot glue again. Get this ready. Okay. Okay, this is my first time hot gluing, so forgive me. But I'll go ahead and go along the base here. I'm not burning. Might get banned if I do. Had to get creative since like I said, I don't want to make a huge mess with another thing. If the hair overlaps a little bit on the base, that's fine. I'll just press it on down. And glue up the side. Press that seam together. We'll find out. This might be a great alternative. Use this instead. It's cheaper, it's easier. You can get this at Walmart. The fabric glue I have, I believe I got off of Amazon for a different project. And well, since I'm working with fabric, I figured go and continue, but so far, so good with the hot glue. Now the top, what I do, because of course this does not fit, is I will lay the two corners down first. Then I will bring the back opposite. And after those are set, I will go to the middle of this little pocket sticking out, and I will lay that over and glue it down. I will do the same here. And you have a nice little hump. So let's go ahead and do that. Huh? Perfect, thank you. And I always have an extra hot glue stick. I guarantee you're going to run out right when you really don't want to. It says high temp on this. I don't know if the glue stick matches. It was whatever was on. I think I actually got the glue sticks at the Dollar Tree. So it was whatever was on sale. As long as it holds, I'm not the least bit picky. One thing I am liking about the fabric glue more though, is all of this right here is loose. So if I did a lot with the hot glue, I'd probably just run a pattern all up and down that hide, just back and forth, zigzag it. So it holds all over. It's good. So I would put some hot glue right here on the inside of that. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, usually I just use that spray, give it a very generous coat, and with gloves, lay it on. Can't recommend gloves enough. Well, and I will touch it up with hot glue because like this end is sticking up. There's nothing holding that down anyways. So since there's so much hair hiding everything, put a little glob and just push it down. Same on this side, little glob here, just push it down. Then all you have to do is pull a little web, spider web things off. You might want to wait to do that till it's cooled a little bit more than what I just did. Who knew we were getting such a crafty class today? You're not just turners, you're crafters. Yep, you got to be able to use all of your talents. Or maybe steal your wife's stash of crafting supplies. Well, it's not too dangerous if you make one for her too. Say, look, honey, I borrowed your stuff, but look what I did. It's yours. Then since I have all these little pieces sticking out everywhere, I'll get my brush and just brush them down a little. Oh, and these are like your little cheapy wire brushes that you get at Walmart. But I found some that instead of wire, they're like nylon. I guess that's one. Anyways, it's not as harsh, so I like it for these. Whatever works. I've even used, like, you know how you go to the dentist and they give you the little spare toothbrush? I've even used those. Those were great. Okay. Now, while I have this on still, I'll go ahead and do the head. I try to get it so the hair's down in the right direction. This stuff you can brush in any direction, but it just makes it easier to knot. And we're going to try the zigzagging on this one. First, I will get the face good or quick because it's going to dry fast, and then just zigzag. And that's part of all of this is you experiment, see what works best. That's really hot, by the way. Okay. And this is the same way as the body. I usually push the two ends to the middle and go to the opposite side. Almost done, promise. Well, almost, sort of. It's pretty fast. No, it's not as fast as the hot glue. It does take a little bit longer, but I mean, I hold it just for not even a full minute and it's holding good enough. And then I just leave it alone for a while before I try to brush it and groom it, and it sets the rest of it. Yep. You could probably spray it on the wood, but I haven't figured out a way to handle that to where I'm not making a bigger mess. Because it's just messy, period. Sorry, I have a little. Go ahead and glue the ears. I'll just go and follow that little kind of diamond shape on one side. It's it. Mostly. Just glue them together. Yes, these I do normally do with the hot glue because that fabric glue is, the spray is so wide, it would just make an absolute disastrous mess. And the nice thing about the hot glue, if I kind of mess up the hair, I just brush it out. Or I make that the back side. Okay. Start with this one. See, I did such a good job. I can't find the seams. I don't know where the hole is. Okay. Okay, I'm way off on that one. Okay, found the hole. And I will go ahead and kind of brush the hair all away from it. So I'm not cutting off any hair that I won't stay there. Find the middle. This is probably, I'm sure there's some OSHA person that's ready to attack me right now. I just try to, you can kind of feel where the edges of the wood are, which means I'm dulling my knife really fast. So have replacement blades on hand at some point. And usually with the fabric glue, it kind of helps hold it down. Since I didn't glue this very smartly, I will add a little bit more glue around the hole too. Help put that hair down. There we go. I will do a quick test fit. And what's nice is because you can't hardly get all of it just like cut in a perfect circle, it is very snug. So it's in there pretty good. Okay, so since this is, like I said, loose, I'm just going to get a little bit of hot glue to attach that hair down around the hole. I'm not gluing the hole in yet. I gotta watch it. I'm almost out of hot glue. See, I told you bring extra sticks. I did not. And I will put a little bit of glue around the top of this one. Put it in. Find the hole. See, this one's nice. There's no hair there. So, you know what we're gonna do? The second part. We're gonna go ahead and cut the holes on this and glue everything in and then attach it. And we can't forget our eyes. So I will get creative because I'm running out of hot glue here. Don't cut yourself. Thankfully, we do have a doctor on hand. Thank you, Joel. But I know I'm not the first turner to say, do what I say, hey, don't do what I do. I will do a little bit somewhere. I thought I found it. There it is. I was getting a little bit worried there. Because you know, if things are going to go wrong, they are going to go wrong when you're teaching someone else how to do something. Here. I'm going to go and cut. I thought I cut the bone. There it is. Or just start stabbing around until you feel it give. I cut smaller holes on this one, so that was probably a mistake. See, constantly learning. Okay. No, I've probably seen a lot of my head. I apologize for that. Let's test it out. I'll put down memory. Get some glue. Oh, I cut them both. Hopefully. Yes, I did. Yep. There's the ear down here. I didn't screw up. Oh, there's a little wobbly, so I'm gonna do some more. Just a little. Haha. Or start melting that off. So we will do half if I am out of glue. Then I can go ahead and shut this on. It won't be. The head might fall off my phone, guys. Hopefully that's not too traumatic for anybody. Yeah, I'm out of glue. Sorry. There. Yay. Oh, yay. And then little coffee. Isn't he lovely? And then, like I said, I would go ahead and groom him up a little bit because everything should have set. I like to hide the eyes a little. And then just gonna flip up this hair. And then I will take it and groom it till it looks nice and pretty. And I'll take them to the air hose and I will just fluff and fluff and fluff until it is a huge puffball. Because those are by far the cutest. Yes. These are, let me input this real quick. They are called safety eyes. Did I get them both in there? Yes. These are safety eyes. They are used for making stuffed animals. I got them off of Amazon. They come in different sizes based on millimeters. You can get colored ones. You can get pure black, but you need something with a back if you want to use these. You can make your own too. Safety eyes. Yep, safety eyes. Yep, and I got Joann's, Hobby Lobby. I haven't been to Michael's. I bet they have them there, but they're usually in like the fabric and kind of toy department or the toy making department. And like I said, just I have a habit of, hey, I bet I could use this in my other tin crafts. And so I get a lot of crossing things over. But I will finish assembling him at home and he will probably be up for grabs at the next meeting. So any more questions? Now I want to say that I know everyone here can do this. If I can do this and not screw up massively, anyone can do this. Since it is about as easy of a project as you can get, in my opinion. So thank you.